hiphop.com.
Yeah. Holy smokes, I'm no joke out the bullpen. Bringing nothing but heat, leave you hanging like clothespins. He's a beast when he goes in, ice cold frozen. The first round draft pick, number one chosen. Drop bombs, explosion, self-promotion. And I keep shit moving like a flanker in motion. I'm the number one spokesman, is my devotion. That I'm dedicated to the rhyme is my own notion. Brown water's the potion, it put hair on your chest. Or you could put one in the air and it'll put you to rest. Sweet dreams, I'm about to fade. I got my mind on my money and I'm dreaming about getting this all paid. Mr. Go-Getter, Mr. Assertive, Mr. Initiative, Mr. Results, man, I'm all about my business, kid. Damn.
On a suddenly not so casual Thursday evening in October, it is Thursday, October 19th, 2023, Thursday Night Football, Week 7, the Shark and the Gun, right here live on Sharky Waters Nation, X, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube link is in my profile and the gun. Come on over to YouTube, talk to us in the chat. One game on the slate, a huge play developing in a late hour. I just looked at it. I am hyped. I am ready. Guns picks. What's going on, brother?
Woo, baby! Thursday Night Football Week 7 is on the books here. I'm ready to get this started. Listen, JMU, my boys are going to be on TV. I wish I took the play today. I wish I had it at -3. I'm not playing anything in college today, but I do have a nice little delicious play that I'm going to be aligned here with the Shark on this Thursday Night Football game. NFL, let's go.
Not waiting around 8:15 Eastern, Caesars Superdome, New Orleans, Louisiana, Thursday Night Football Week 7. Saints at home against the Jags. Guns picks, throwing it to you first. The home team, big-time stuff here, unofficial.
Forgive me, everybody. I'm back on my bullshit, and I'm going to be taking the Saints one more time here. Please, for once, cover for me on this one. Listen, we know where the Saints are coming from on this one. They're 1-4-1 against the spread this year. There's 3-3 straight up. New Orleans coming off a non-divisional road loss versus Houston last week, 20-13, despite winning the net yardage battle in a dominating fashion, in my opinion, plus 133 net yards in that game, but just couldn't put the biscuit in the basket, just couldn't get the touchdowns. I'll tell you why in a second. They're one of the worst teams as far as red zone percentage is concerned. But look at New Orleans, really, and their statistical watermark, as they say. They have a plus 34 net yard average for the season, but 4 of their games they dominated in the net yards, and most of those were wins. You have the versus Tennessee, they had a plus 66 net yard average, winning the game 16-15. Then you had a plus 102 net yard average versus Carolina, winning that one 20-17. Did not cover that one. Then you had plus 48 net yards versus New England. Dominated them on the road in Foxborough, 134-0. Did cover that one, their only cover this year. Then they had to go versus Houston. That fourth quarter, they were in scoring position more than once. Plus, they missed a few field goals in that one, but they had a plus 33 net yard average in that game. Lost the game 20-13. Now, New Orleans has trouble scoring. They have a 36.8% conversion rate in the red zone. They're ranked 28th in the league. That is most of their problems, and quite frankly, that's why they're very good at hitting the unders. I think they're 17-6 to the under dating back to 2022. But you have Jacksonville. This is their first true road game since week 1. You can count those London games, but those are really home games for them. They always prepare very well for them. They have to play there every single year, and lo and behold, they usually get victories going into London, and they dominated there. This is also their first non-conference, non-divisional road game of the season as well. This is a bad start for Jacksonville because they're 2-9 against the spread versus non-conference opponents dating back to 2021. They have already beaten Atlanta in week 4, but they beat them, as we know, that was a home game for them in a bad spot for Atlanta. So the trends tell me that this is a really overdue spot for a NFC South opponent to go in there and get business done at home in the Dome. Now you got New Orleans. What do they do best? They play great defense. They're one of the best defenses that Jacksonville has seen all season. They only allowed 278 yards of total offense to their opponents, 3.9 yards per carry on the ground, 55.9% pass completion rate, and a 5.4 yards per attempt passing. That's very good from the defensive side for New Orleans. Now, Jacksonville has been in a tough spot. QB Trevor Lawrence is listed as questionable. I think he's going to be playing this game, but he has a knee injury that he's dealing with, sprained knee, I believe. So if he does play, it's still good. And if CJ Beathard plays, it's still good to me because I think not 100% Trevor Lawrence is probably the guy that I want in there in this spot. He'll be thinking about that knee the whole time. I trust New Orleans in this spot, coming off 2 productive road games, now back home on a short week versus an absolutely red hot Jaguars team here, coming off 2 London wins and then a conference win versus an Indianapolis team that they own at home anyway. So you can just throw that out the window. So I'm going to be taking New Orleans here on the money line. I got it at minus 118. I know it's at minus 132 at some books right now. But let's get the points out of the way. Let's just pick a winner. So I got New Orleans minus 118, 1.5 unit special.
Complete alignment. Let me jump off some further points here. Great details from the gun, and let's talk statistics as I usually do when I jump off. Look at New Orleans statistically. This team has one element, bye. But I think more specifically, if you look at the numbers, this team is 1-4-1 ATS. However, their cover was a blowout, 34-0 at the Patriots. One of their other non-covers was a blowout home game. So if you allow this to be a 1-1 there to neutralize an average, they got 1 blowout in their favor and 1 blowout against. They have 4 coin flip games, and they are 0-4 ATS in all 4 coin flip games. This is pure probability and statistics. It's not pro football. You should not lose 4 out of 4 coin flips. So that's a big upward point in that. But let's go more specifically. Guns talked about it, and we've talked about it almost every week because we keep buying this team, but you don't run from a good idea. Week 1 at home against Tennessee, 16-15 non-cover. Mike Vrabel takes a stupid field goal where he couldn't win the game, but he covered the spread. And we know he wasn't even trying to cover the spread. He honestly just is so anti-analytics. He wasn't thinking straight. Week 2 at Carolina, 8 late points from Bryce Young and the boys. Total garbage, 2-point conversion to push the spread. Week 3 at Green Bay, Derek Carr gets hurt after the first half, 17-0. Jordan Love and the boys come back 18-0 in the fourth quarter. Not symptomatic of anything because he got hurt. Came home in the first home game in the division, probably still a little bit hurt. Horrible game against Tampa Bay. Then the blowout at New England. Go back to last week. Guns talked about it. I'll go into a little bit more detail. They did outgain Houston 430-297. The last 4 drives of the game were absolutely egregious. 4+ zone drives. 10 plays, 48 yards, made field goal. 11 plays, 58 yards, missed field goal. Missed field goal from 29 yards. Third drive, 7 plays, 73 yards, downs in the red zone, and to close the game, 12 plays, 61 yards, pick on the goal line. Here's the key point, though. 2 missed field goals in that game. So this wasn't necessarily even about the fact they couldn't score the ball and get in the end zone. If the kicker makes his kicks, I believe it was a 52-yarder in the first half and a 29-yarder in the second half, the score of that game on the final possession is 20-19 Houston. Therefore, Derek Carr does not throw a pick in the red zone to close the game. They kick a game-winning field goal to win 22-20. So this was just absolutely egregious and outlierish. Their schedule has not been friendly. 4 road games, only 2 home games. Their last home game, again, Derek Carr potentially hurt. Go back to last year. I think this does matter. Clearly not the same quarterback, same coach. And I mentioned this going back a couple weeks ago. I heard Dennis Allen in the press conference. I like this guy. I think he's actually a much better coach than I originally thought. Go back to last year. They were 3-2 ATS at home outside of the division. Only 2 non-covers, both as an underdog. Crucial point. They're a favorite tonight. And also crucial point, Cincinnati and Baltimore. AFC North, same division, same quality opponent. And a couple of things that I just had written down here before I talk about Jacksonville. The Superdome will be rocking tonight. It's a big crowd. It's prime time. It's October. It's going to be going down. And Carr has been historically good on Monday Night Football. I think he'll bounce back here tonight. Let's talk about Jacksonville very briefly. One thing that I love about Jacksonville, and I think this is actually kind of a surprise because Jacksonville is so young with Trevor Lawrence. Since the beginning of 2021, significant pattern recognition. And you look at this year alone, they have 2 wins against Indianapolis, and they have 2 wins in London. So if they're not playing Indianapolis and they're not playing in London, they're 0-2 ATS. That tells you a very good story, but it also applies to the full window. They are 3-0 last three versus Indianapolis straight up in ATS. One of those non-covers was against Kansas City. Consistency, 0-3 last three against Kansas City. One of the wins was in London. 3-1 career for Trevor Lawrence in London. Take it to tonight's environment on the road at the NFC, expecting repeat in the pattern and the consistency. 0-5 last five road at NFC, all as an underdog and by significant margin. 31-7 at Seattle, 37-7 at the Rams, both in 2021. Last year, early season, took a loss to Washington as a small dog. Washington was -3, 28-22. Slightly later on, a non-cover at Philadelphia, 29-21, and a non-cover at Detroit. Crucial point, as Guns mentioned, this team is way too hot coming in. Two very impressive covers in London and a blowout against Indianapolis last week. We'll go back to last year, those last two NFC road games they played at Philly and at Detroit. The game at Philly, they were coming into that game off of two blowout wins and a 62-10 point differential margin in the previous two games. So they were scorching hot coming in and did not cover on the road. The Detroit game, they were off a 3-game sample, just like tonight. Home win against Vegas, tight, non-cover competitive game at Kansas City, and a huge home win against Baltimore. So they had laid it all on the line for 3 straight weeks with success. Then they went to Detroit as a small dog, Detroit -1. They just had nothing left competitively. And Detroit blew them out 40-14. There's fatigue, it's travel, it's short week. They've been all over the world, London, Jacksonville, New Orleans. This is an all boxes checked spot for New Orleans tonight. We absolutely love this spot. On it officially, -130. That is a 1-unit play for the Shark. Guns picks. Let's talk the total. Comments, please.
Yeah, just a couple notes on the total here. So, I just kind of dissected where these teams are at right now. So you have Jacksonville with an average of 44 points per game overall, where you have New Orleans with 34. Then you break it down even further than that. You have Jacksonville on the road in this situation. They average 42 points per game, but their road games are very small sample size on that. Then you have the home games for New Orleans, 34 points per game. On non-divisional opponent totals, 34. New Orleans, 33. Then you look at the red zone efficiency. Now, when we talk about red zone efficiency, we're talking about when you get there, do you score touchdowns? That's kind of what the percentage is based off of. So every time Jacksonville gets into the red zone, they score touchdowns 50% of the time, which ranks them 20th. And then you have New Orleans, they're ranked 36.8% that I mentioned before, 28th in the NFL. Now you got to look at 17 out of their last 23 games. The under is hit for New Orleans, so they're on a little bit of an under streak. I think they've hit every single under this year in 2023. The 6 outcomes that were overs though in 2022, they were early in the season. I think they hit 4 in a row, but it was against NFC opponents for the most part, except for one, Cincinnati. So they had the Rams, the Cardinals, Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Falcons. So those are the over teams that they had. So you see they're all NFC opponents in that sample size, and one AFC team was Cincinnati. The lines were pretty much around 42, 38, right around that range for most of these games that hit this. Actually, the overs right around those areas, but all their lines were kind of all in that same area. I think they had 148 all season in 2022. So I'm just kind of giving you some number perspectives on this one. Now you're seeing this line hit at 40.5, 41s out there. I don't want to deter anybody from trying to be a contrarian and taking the over on this one. To me, it's still a very sharp line. They haven't really changed these lines at all with New Orleans games. They've kind of been all the same. There's no real read on this, in my opinion. Eventually, the levy's got to break on these under streaks, but for some reason with New Orleans, they just want to keep hitting these unders left, right. Jacksonville probably a little bit more susceptible to the overside on a lot of their trends. So it's kind of a mixed bag of who's going to do what in this game. I lean towards the underside on this one because it's New Orleans at home. controlling the game. I also another key point on this one. A lot of these games that went over for New Orleans, if you look back at 2022, they actually won those games straight up. So that it was more of an angle. If you're taking New Orleans, you may want to take the over in this one. It's just not a total. I'm just trying to, I'm talking myself into one way or the other. I can't do it. I'm not taking a total on this one. I don't have a side on this one. But I just want to give a few stats out there for anybody looking at the totals.
Yeah, great stats. And, truthfully, I talk about this almost every time we play a game. I don't like merging a side and a total. I feel like you kind of end up rooting for too much within the game. It can be kind of chaotic, but I really think this is an overlook. As you mentioned, they've clustered unders. Bob Warner says big under teams. And, I will say this. Be careful about the narratives, guys, because no team is really anything. What they are is they are moving on a statistical curve. And where this team is moving is up towards more points. As we detailed, they've been horrendous in the red zone, and they've outgained their opponent in every single one of their ATS losses, including last week where they scored 13 points with 430 yards. So the point here statistically is New Orleans is very overdue to put the ball in the end zone with frequency. And if you look at Jacksonville, those 5 games on the road at the NFC that I mentioned, one of the big symptoms of this team is really poor defense in those games. At Seattle, gave up 31. At the Rams, 37. Last year at Washington, gave up 28. That was an over. Gave up 29 to Philadelphia and gave up 40 to Detroit. And as I mentioned, that Detroit game was a very similar calendar spot where Jacksonville had really laid it all on the table for 3 consecutive weeks coming into the game. I'm not on this, but I think this is without question an overlook. And I think you guys have to really just tune into statistics more so than the narratives. Narratives, they're good talking points in a bar just to kind of hang out, but they really lack centrality at the core, the base. And the base of all evaluation is statistical curves, small versus big window averages. So in my opinion, this is an over 100%. I think it does correlate to what we said. New Orleans will score. Jacksonville probably not going to play their best defensive game tonight.
I will say this one more thing, and I going back to my point on this one, the range for their overs was between the 42 and 45. But like I said, if they do hit an over, which I'm not really going to take one way or the other on this one. But if you do see this one hit an over, this New Orleans team is very streaky when it comes to one side or the other. I mean, they hit 4 in a row right after that between 42 and 45. So if you start to see them in that range, that's kind of their sweet spot as far as overs are concerned. And I guess we'll see by game time as if this line actually hits the 42 mark. I think it was like 41 last time I looked before the show.
Yeah, and as you said, I think your quote was when the levee is going to break.
Right. And you're just going to see overs. That's what I mean. It's like you're seeing the streak of unders, and New Orleans, based on what happened last year, when they hit 1 over, they hit 3 more. So that's kind of how it's gone.
And it's such a great way to look at it visually, and a visual because I think it's very difficult to visualize numbers. It's a very unique angle to look at, but I think the idea that the levee's about to break. It is because they're putting so much pressure on these overs and they're just not scoring the ball in situations they have to start scoring. I mean, this is professional football. This is really a team that could win this division this year too. I mean, this is a playoff team. I mean, this is not a playoff team from the standpoint against the whole sport. They're going to go to the Super Bowl, but this is probably the best team in this division. So it's going to come. And, one of the worst things you want to have in a sports betting environment is to be late to the party. Taking unders here is unequivocally late.
No, you're way late. You're a day late, a buck short at this point.
So late to the party. So again, not merging a side and a total, but for those of you guys who like to bet points, Thursday Night Football, crack a beer, and maybe not have a side, take the bet the over and enjoy the statistical curve coming in your favor. Unequivocally the right side. Unequivocally the right side as well. Collaboration official, Shark in the Gun. New Orleans Saints at home. 0-2 ATS this year at home. 0-4 in 4 tight window games, very due to get off that schneid off a loss last week. Jacksonville, just a brutal spot tonight, Thursday Night Football. Week 7, -131 unit for the Shark, 118 money line, 1.5 units for the gun. We'll be on here tomorrow night, same time, 7 o'clock. CFB Week 8 Knowledge for College. It is Sharky Waters Nation. 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. Guns picks. A pleasure as always. Let's dominate this card. Close them out with some words, and let's go.
Yeah, we may have to discuss that time. I'll talk to you after the show on this one. I may have some oblos that we got to do. So we may be doing a later show tomorrow. I have to check with the Shark on that one. We'll get you on the time on that one. But definitely, there is going to be a show tomorrow. I just want to let the people know for the college football show. And listen, there's going to be a lot of alignment on that card as well. So when we align, we cash. So we're going to absolutely dominate the board. And for all you guys watching live on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so you know every time that we go live. Listen, NBA just started. Shark put out his first NBA show. I forget what it's called. Was it Payday? The Payday show with Shark and J.R. Brown. So go check that out. That's going to be a daily show there. So we have a lot of content coming along, and of course, college football after football season will be banging too. So let's cash some tickets. Let's have ourselves a damn Thursday. And please join us tomorrow for the college football show. Knowledge for college. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bang.